And we are live. This is the Canada Hoops Daily Wrap It Up podcast, but a different kind of podcast because we're talking Canada basketball, kids. Yes, Team Canada is in the Olympics. And I know I normally close the pod by saying I used to pray for times like this, to rhyme like this, but really, I got to say it off the front end because Canada basketball fans, we all really did used to pray for times like this. Here we are in the Olympics talking about W's, wins. Canada wins 86-79 to open up Olympic play. My name is Sheldon Alexander. Thank you for tuning in to the podcast, which you can grab in audio form to recap the games on Apple or on Spotify. Just search Canada Hoops Daily. You can find all Canada Hoops video content on YouTube at Sheldon Alexander. And of course, continue to like and follow to all the socials as well, because that's how you keep up. And we also did a live watch along. We're calling those Canada Hoops Daily live hangouts, where we watch the game together. We talk about the game together. You watch me lose my mind over the refs, almost throwing games away, but all that fun stuff. Just make sure you go to YouTube and subscribe to Sheldon Alexander on YouTube. Bless us with a like. That's how you support the movement that is this Canada Hoops Daily, as we've been waiting for times like this. It's funny because people who've been following this channel for a bit know what we've been doing here. And, I had the studio set up. I had all this stuff. And then, there was a flood in Toronto. But that can't stop us. We find different ways to adjust, to have the setup rocking and rolling just in time, because there's no possible way we could be missing this moment right here with Team Canada playing in the Olympics, and we not give y'all a platform to bless us with, to have the conversations about exactly what is happening right now. Because the crazy part of all of this, the year 2000, right? 2000. That's the last time Canada found themselves in the Olympics, led by, of course, Steve Nash. And to have it take this long for us to get back at this point here, where we're talking about wins in the Olympics, and not just wins, but chances to medal, going up against Giannis Antetokounmpo, arguably the best player in the world. But you know what? Luckily for Team Canada, we also have one of the best players in the world, namely Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Giannis and him dueled it out. Giannis with 34 points, Shai with 21, RJ leading Team Canada with 23 points. We'll break the whole game down. I'll go through the whole thing for sure. People that are watching this live on stream, don't hesitate to send in your comments and questions if you have any, or hit me up on Twitter and I will respond to those as well. But as of now, we're doing the pod, and I'll break down the whole game. If you want to join in, send in some comments or questions. Feel free to do that. And also, of course, tell your friends. Now, so much panic was going on in Team Canada land because so much conversation was about who's in the starting lineup. Is Jamal Murray going to start? Mass panic ensued the whole time during Canada's run and lead up to this Olympics. And the one thing I said, if you follow the pod, was, listen, he's there, right? He's obviously been participating in their full scrimmages and practices and all that. And it didn't matter to me as long as we had Jamal Murray playing in the Olympics. And he was there. And then, of course, the negative headlines will then shift to, oh, wait, he came off the bench. But I am going to big up our guy, Jordy Fernandez, head coach of Team Canada, because I've got to give Jordy a lot of credit here, because the game plan of having Jamal Murray come off the bench, but more importantly, starting Lou Dort, was massive, a huge part to Team Canada's success. So starting lineup, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Lou Dort, RJ Barrett, Dylan Brooks, and Dwight Powell. That's the Olympic opener versus Greece. And Canada just came out gunning. Like right away, Canada's defense was just all over the place. And that's what I'm saying. We could talk about having Jamal Murray in the starting lineup, and I get it. I love Jamal Murray. Cool. He could be in the starting lineup. But the reminder here from Jordy Fernandez, and that I'm going to back up here, is that basketball and a lot of sports, defense is 50% of the game. We focus so much on the offensive end that we don't fully grasp what Lou Dort provides. And I'm going to say this right off the front end, right? You're going to read the headlines. You're going to see people tweeting about the fact that Lou Dort fouled out of this game. Dylan Brooks fouled out of this game. But I dare those same people to go to the Greece box score and show me what the numbers were for the Greek guards that absolutely Lou Dort gave nightmares to as soon as this game started to the very end of when he checked out of the game. Canada, to start this game, forced two 24-second violations in the first 2.5 minutes of the game. Defense just flying around. Those guards, they don't see defense like that normally, much less full court defense, right? Like, think of the pest that Lou Dort is, how much he was bothering Luka Doncic for a whole playoff series, and now you're throwing him in against these Greece point guards. Like, they have no chance. It's not fair to them. But not only that, not only are we talking about the defense that Lou Dort and company provide, but the reminder that Canada has Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And Shai showing just the full arsenal, the full repertoire. He was cooking these dudes early. And the tough part is, if I was the opposing team, what I would be thinking about doing, honestly, is double teaming Shai and making some of these other guys knock down threes. Now, I'm not going to say that's going to work, because I think that RJ, Dylan Brooks, even Jamal Murray, they will continue to show that they can knock down shots, and they will knock down shots. But leaving Shai on an island with some of these, dudes that are not used to that, and especially the Greek big guys got left out on Shai Island, and it didn't go well for them. Well, it didn't really go well for the guards either. Early on, Shai with that step back three in the corner, he knocks it down and one, falls on the ground, strikes a pose even, put that in the montage. I better see that in the full-on montage of what happens in the Olympics. But Shai was just off to a great start. He had 8 of Canada's first 19 points. And again, scoring through contact, mid-range game, had the three-point shot going. It was an incredible start for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And not to be outdone, because he had to put up these numbers, Giannis, right? Canada off to a big-time start in this game. And the thing here to remember, right? Canada comes back. Canada was off to like a massive, massive lead to start this game. And if I'm not mistaken here, I had it in my notes here. Now I've lost it, of course. But Canada got out to such a good start in this game that it made you wonder, hold on, can they actually blow out Greece? Like, is that a thing that can actually happen here? Because the way that Canada came out so aggressively to start this game on the defensive end, you could tell that Greece was really thrown off in this game, right? Like, they really didn't know what was coming at them from a defensive standpoint, where, as we've talked about it from the get-go, the key to Team Canada's success was going to come on the defensive end. And that got them out to an early run. They led this game 22-9 early. And, that's when Jamal Murray first checked into this game. But I still think, credit where credit is due for Greece, because I feel like Greece did such a good job of staying in this game. And not just staying in this game, but like actually giving Canada some fits, right? Like, I just think you look at it, and if not for Giannis putting on the cape at certain points of this one, it's a blowout early, as Canada was up by 13 early on in this game. But at a certain point, I just thought they couldn't possibly maintain this hot start, because Giannis is on the other end of the court. Do you know what I mean? And so despite the fact, Canada got out to such a good lead, Greece closed on a 13-4 run to close the first quarter. And that was led by Giannis, of course, right? Giannis, you're seeing him hit the Euro step in the lane. You're seeing him take on multiple defenders and find open guys for 3-point looks. And, when they went down, that's when Greece stayed in the game. When those shots didn't fall, that's when Greece really struggled. And SGA and Giannis, after the first quarter, obviously both of them, to the surprise of nobody, leading their teams in scoring. They both had 8 points. Canada was up by 4 heading into the second quarter, but I'll start to mention RJ Barrett as well, who had 7 points early or in the first quarter. And I thought RJ, he led Canada in scoring with 23 points, and he's not going to get a lot of the talk just because I feel like, even though he had some great buckets, some loud dunks, he had a really, really good game, but it was so perfectly in the flow of the game, right? Like when Canada needed big shots, they got them from Shea. Giannis had a bunch of big time plays. Even some of the Greek guards in crunch time, they were able to come up with massive, massive plays. But RJ, I just felt like was a consistent, silent assassin throughout this entire game, and just doing such a good job of what we've seen be successful for Canada throughout this whole run. And when I say this whole run, I'm not just talking about, this summer or even just last summer, but continuously watching this team play and run an offense, right? You see Dylan Brooks and you see RJ Barrett have the ability to get off to great starts because Canada is running sets. It's not just standing around and watching one guy. They're running offense and putting these guys coming off action where they're able to go downhill and get easy buckets or easier buckets than having to just get the ball and have a defender square up on you and you beat that defender one-on-one. No. Everything RJ is getting is to the cup. And, he was off to a great start. As mentioned, by the time Jamal Murray comes into this game, the thing that was really cool to me was seeing Jamal Murray get extended run. And we saw a lot of Jamal Murray without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the first half. And they talked about it on the broadcast, and it was a great job done by, obviously, Dan Shulman and Megan McPeak. Great job done by them, for sure. But the thing that I thought that was super interesting they brought up was just the different scenarios that Canada can be looking at here, depending on how Jordi Fernandez wants to play this. Meaning, do you start Jamal Murray or do you start Lou Dort, depending on the matchup, on how you want to guard the other team's guards? Or do you play it where you get a lot of minutes where Jamal Murray and Shai, at least one of them are on the court at all times? And that to me is an interesting thing because, if Jamal Murray is cooking like we know Jamal Murray can cook, that's a massive advantage for Team Canada to have either Jamal Murray or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander lead your team at all points of a game. Like, that is massive. Only Team USA has the same advantage of having that caliber of player on the court at all times. So I could see that being, a juicy option for Jordi Fernandez. And I mean, I thought Jamal Murray in his extended run, he looked good. He hit a nice step back J when Canada really needed it. He's able to break down a defender, get in the lane, find Lou Dort for a nice look. Like, there were definitely some shaky moments from Jamal, but I thought there were enough solid moments overall from Jamal Murray. And I'm going to big up the clutch free throws he hit late in the game to emphasize how important he can be to this team. You need another threat alongside Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And the beauty of what that did was, as close as this game got late, the beauty was Shai didn't have to exert himself so much throughout the entire game as we saw him have to do last summer in the World Cup. They were able to have him get an extended rest in that first half. And, a first half in which Canada did lead right from the jump all the way to the horn of the second quarter, of the end of the second quarter. But SGA, I thought, had a great start to this game, and Canada was able to survive with our SGA on the bench, something that didn't really happen. And Arash ported this out on Twitter too, just about how even heading into the end of the third quarter, normally Jordi Fernandez would be struggling because, you don't want to risk taking Shea out at the end of the quarter and having Greece go on a run. But with this team, with Andrew Nemhard, with Nickeil Alexander-Walker, with Jamal Murray, you have so many options now that the pressure is not all on Shea. But when you need him, he's there. He is definitely there. And I just thought for Canada to be up by 10 at halftime, that just showed how ready they were. They came out gunning. They took on the pressure from Giannis and Greece, and Greece was able to cut the lead to, I think, 5, and then Canada pushed back to get it to be 10 points at the end of the first half. And I mean, Giannis with 16 of Greece's 38 points in that first half, the damage that's going to be done by Giannis Antetokounmpo. But I'm going to use this time to big up the defense and the game plan from Jordi Fernandez, because what you'll see, right, is that every time Giannis had the ball, Canada showed Giannis multiple defenders. And it didn't matter where you were putting him on the court. They tried him at the top of the key, and you'd have 3 defenders all lined up on the free throw line, all facing Giannis. And he's trying to survey, but there's just not that much space. So then the next level is, okay, he's Giannis, so he's gonna break the defense down. But Canada did such a great job, and this is the difference between Canada winning and losing. The ability for the guys to help on Giannis, but then recover to the 3-point line. And when Canada wasn't able to recover and the Greek perimeter players were able to get open looks, most often than not, they knocked those shots down. But when Canada, whether it was RJ, whether it was Lou Dort, those guys fly out to the free throw or to the 3-point line to contest those shots, you saw those numbers drastically go down. And I know that I'm saying something that's obvious, like, oh, of course it's harder to hit contested threes. I'm just saying, I'm asking people to pay attention to the ask of what's being put onto these Canadian players in terms of guarding Giannis as a collective while also maintaining your responsibility to guarding at the 3-point line. And that was a great job because, again, the Greek perimeter players really, really struggled. Their 2 starters, Walkup and Kalithis. Walkup didn't even score until the second half. He didn't score a field goal till late in the fourth quarter, I want to say. But those guys combined to go, 2 for 11 from the floor and 2 for 8 from 3. And they had a tough time. I want to say the Kalithis, his 3-pointer came super late in the game. And if I'm not mistaken, it might have even been when Lou Dort had fouled out by that point. And, it just goes to show the intensity and the game plan that Team Canada had, that they were able to just, have such a massive, massive performance. And even in the third quarter, Canada goes up, Canada makes a run, and it didn't matter because Greece was able to push back, make a little comeback, and everything was all right. And, even in that third quarter, even into the fourth quarter, Greece was trying to cut that lead. And what you saw from Canada was that they made it a point to just settle things down. And you saw it multiple times. The lead got to like 5-4 at certain points, I think 6. And what happened? Shea just took the ball, and he did this in the first half to stop the run, did it in the fourth quarter to stop Greece's run. He just got to the free throw line. And I want you to pay attention going forward to how often Shea Gilgeous-Alexander does that, where, it's a vet point guard thing. And I say that because I know how important he's talked about it. We've heard Chris Paul talk about it, but how important that one season of playing with Chris Paul was, for Shea's development. And that's definitely, you just see that OG status from Shea. Like, the moment never looks too big for him. He's always just calm, cool, and collected. And Greece is making a run. Giannis is throwing down dunks. Canada's turning over the ball. Shea says, don't worry, comes down, gets to the line, is able to give his team a second to catch their breath, but also put some points on the board while his team has been struggling to put points on the board. It was just such an amazing, amazing performance from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And just watching him be the true leader of this team and just be able to give Canada those key buckets when we're needed. It was just such a big time performance from him. Um, and I guess, I'll stick on Shai here, right? I'll stick on Shai here because obviously the big time bucket came very late in this game where Greece is making the comeback. It's a 2-point game. Shai has the ball, top of the key, and he sees the double team. He crosses the first guy, sees the double team coming from his left-hand side, proceeds to hezi, drive right, away from the double team, sees Giannis coming towards him, hits a floater off the glass over Giannis Antetokounmpo for the big time bucket, walks back to the bench just calm and cool, like, yeah, that's what I do. And like you saw him do that multiple times in this game where he hit a shot when he was, and then ends up on the ground and he strikes a pose. There's another moment where he had one of the Greek big guys on ISO, hits him with the step back 3-pointer, turns back to the bench like, yeah, calm and cool. You saw him make a play where he drove, sees a double team, finds Lou Dort. Lou Dort knocks down a massive, 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 massive 3-pointer in winning time. Like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander just made all the plays. But I tweeted this as it happened. Shai just put 2 dudes on skates and hit a floater off the glass over Giannis in winning time of an Olympic game. What a time to be alive. Like, it's just an incredible performance in crunch time. And I reference this for Raptors fans because it was familiar to watching Kawhi, where you felt like, during that 2019 run, as long as the game's close, our guy's going to make plays down the stretch. And I feel like we're at the point with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander wearing a Canada uniform where you trust that whenever you need a bucket, but especially down the stretch, Shai is going to get you that bucket. And for me, like, it's incredible. Like I almost struggle to find words to describe it, which I know is terrible to say because I'm on a podcast, but to describe just the level of gangster Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is, because he just does it with ease. And whatever you need, 3-point shot, mid-range, getting all the way to the cup. And also, as I transition here to big up the defensive play from Team Canada, but having a collective defensive mindset and defensive intensity also allows Shai to save some energy for late in the games or for the big time moments that Canada really needs that extra boost. Because you'll remember last year in the World Cup, Canada came out with this defensive intensity, but their depth wasn't really the same. Their offense would struggle drastically in the non-Shai minutes. And that would then lead to Shai having to kind of, not cheat defensively, but maybe try to save and preserve some energy on defense because he knew that he needed so much on the offensive end. But now with the added depth that Canada has, the defense has provided him, some extra help so that he has that extra gear when you need him most. And what a bucket in crunch time Shai Gilgeous-Alexander hit that iced the game for Team Canada. Just what a moment. Just an incredible scene to watch. And I mentioned the defense. Now, I talked about this at the end of the live hangout, but I want to take some time to fully emphasize what Lou Dort did in this game, okay? The guards of some of these other European teams, right, or just international teams, I should say, Canada's going to play, their next game is against Australia, right? And you have Patty Mills and you have Josh Giddey. They won their game earlier on today against Spain. They beat them by 12. But Patty Mills and Giddey got busy. And if you notice the theme, right? Germany won by 20. You'll see Dennis Schroeder go off, right? You talk about France, and we know about Wemby. We know about the big guys, but Evan Fournier, those guys will go off. Guards. That's what I'm getting to. Jose Alvarado, right, for Puerto Rico. You see guards go crazy in international play just because the style of play is more conducive to that, right? So how does that affect Canada? Well, it does because Canada has the luxury of saying, hey, we're going to throw out two of the best defenders in the world in terms of Dylan Brooks and Lou Dort and have them just run around like crazy against your guards who are not even remotely close to seeing any level of defense like that. Lou Dort and Dylan Brooks completely changed the narrative of this game because, one, the job Dylan Brooks did on Giannis, incredible. But what these guys were able to do on the guards for Greece completely just took them out of the game. And for people that might not understand, if you're watching or you're paying attention to what's going on, think about how difficult it is that you would have to dribble with pressure and how much energy you're wasting getting over half court with Lou Dort guarding you full court. Now, to start the game, that might be a lot. But now, as the game progresses, you're getting more and more and more tired. And then by the fourth quarter, you're exhausted. You're tired of Lou Dort. And I know people are going to talk about the fouls and the fact that he fouled out. And first off, it's only 5 fouls in international play versus 6 in the NBA. But also, I would argue, fouls well spent. Fouls well spent, because the stat that doesn't show up is how much that takes out of the other guards. Those guards that Giannis and Greece are depending upon, those dudes to knock down shots in crunch time or at any other point throughout the game. But those dudes are so worried because they're struggling to even get the ball over half court. That's the difference maker there. And hey, Greece, cool. Yeah, they were able to get through Greece, but I want to see what happens in their next game and how they're able to play against Patty Mills and Josh Giddey, right? Because again, that's where the difference will be made for Team Canada in some of these difficult games that they're going to play against really good teams. It's going to come down to defense. And just as much as Canada won this game, Shea hit some big shots late, RJ had a nice night, Canada won this game because of their defense on the other guys not named Giannis. That's going to be the way that Canada is going to win going forward. That's going to be the way that if Canada ends up getting to the podium, it's going to be because of that, right? Greece had like a 10-0 run in the fourth quarter. Canada's 3 top defenders in Dwight Powell, Dylan Brooks, and Lou Dort all fouled out at that point. But the reality was, at that point, the damage was already done for Greece, right? Like in international play, 40-minute game, you have to exert so much energy throughout the game. How much do you have late? And this tweet here from Caritha U on Twitter. So Lou Dort, Dylan Brooks, and Dwight Powell fouled out, right? Lou Dort was plus 26 in 17 and a half minutes. Dylan Brooks was plus 24 in 24 minutes. Dwight Powell was plus 19 in 21 minutes. That right there just tells you everything you need to know about the impact that those dudes had on this game when they were in it. And people will have their flaws about what plus minus is, but just stare at those numbers and combine that with what you watched with your eyes. Those dudes were wrecking havoc when they were on the floor. Or even just ask the Greek dudes after the game how difficult that was for them. Now, shout to Elijah in the chat. He's asking what happened with Shea at the end of the game. If you saw the broadcast at the end, it looked like Shea had some words for one of the Greek players at the end of the game. You saw there was like a little, some talking, and everyone gets in the way, pushes Shea away. And I said something had to happen because Shea doesn't just go off like that, right? Shea's calm and cool. So something must have happened for Shea to respond like that. Well, Ben Gulliver on Twitter says, Canada's Shea Gilgeous-Alexander on the post-game exchange with Greece after the opening win. Quote, number 5 bumped Nikhil after the whistle for no reason. I just wanted to let him know we don't play that. It was hashed out. It was cool. Close quote. Shea's a gangster, man. He saw the guy bump his cousin. I thought I caught that at the end, but I wasn't sure. So big ups to the reporting on site. But Shea saw dude try to bump Nikhil. He's like, no. We're not playing that. I love it. I love it. We're here, Canada basketball. And the reason why I get so fired up is because I want the whole nation of sports fans in Canada to be on board and rooting for these guys, to understand exactly what's happening right now. Don't wait for the medal round. This game was an incredible game to watch, an exciting game to watch, and just stuff like that just adds to the emotions, the intensity of it all. Shea didn't look, he looked even keel the whole way through until you bump Nikhil, until you bump his cousin. Then we're going to have some problems. But I bring this all up just to say, I really hope that people tune in and take in what is going on with Team Canada right now, because they're about to make a serious run, and we all need to get on board. We all need to be bigging these guys up, because what these guys are doing right now is incredible, and it's a full-on team effort. And Lou Dort, Dylan Brooks, I'm tipping my cap to those dudes, because just as much as Shea's buckets and RJ's buckets won Canada this game, Lou Dort and Dylan Brooks put in work. They were wrecking havoc. Again, I'm going to say these numbers again. Lou Dort, plus 26 in 17 and a half minutes. Dylan Brooks, plus 24 in 24 minutes. Dwight Powell, plus 19 in 21 minutes. That is damage on the defensive end. These Greek guards didn't know. They had no answers. They couldn't get the ball up half court, much less struggle to get their team into any type of offense that wasn't just pass it to Giannis. And then even when they thought they had open threes, the contests would come flying out of nowhere. Just a crazy, amazing performance from Team Canada. And, Shannon in the chat says RJ was big. It was much needed. It definitely was. RJ was able to make great buckets. He had a key one in crunch time. Shea was, I think it was while Shea was still on the bench, but RJ subbed back in. You needed to give Shea a little bit of a rest here, and Jamal misses a shot. RJ Barrett gets on the glass, grabs a rebound, gets it back up, and puts it in. And that was just a small part of what RJ Barrett brought to the table in this game. As 23 points is massive, but I would urge people to pay attention to the way that he scored the 23 points, right? On 8 of 13 shooting, getting to the line, 6 of 6 from the line for RJ. I just think, for him to be able to score and at a high clip, but also score in a way that he wasn't settling for a lot of like difficult shots. Everything was to the cup. Everything was within rhythm. Just a great performance from him. Again, 23 points for RJ, 21 points for Shea. Shea getting to the free throw line as well. 9 for 10 from the line. Remember, kids, hit your free throws. 7 dimes for Shea Gilgeous-Alexander as well in this game. And another reason I big up Lou Dort and I want to big up Dylan Brooks, who I said on Twitter earlier, if I'm the Houston Rockets, I'm getting Dylan Brooks to wear his Canada jersey underneath his Rockets jersey this season, because Canada Dylan is a different Dylan Brooks. He's a problem. 14 points, 6 rebounds for Dylan Brooks in this game. But I want to use these guys as an example. Canada, like basketball has been exploding in this country for a lot of years. I'm getting on a little bit of a soapbox here, but hey, why not? We're here. Basketball at the youth level is exploding a lot across this country right now, right? And, as kids get into it, we've seen it happen with hockey. We've seen it happen with soccer, with all the influx of like kids playing year round, kids having all these like specialized coaches. And, you get in the gym and you're practicing with these coaches and you're working on your bag and you're working on all these ball handling cone drills and like all these things, right? The reason I bring this up is because I want people to understand the importance of Lou Dort and Dylan Brooks, not only to Team Canada, but to their individual NBA teams. I'm emphasizing that because those guys, I'll use Lou Dort as a better example, because if we remember Lou Dort's story, he grinded his way onto the Oklahoma City Thunder, grinded his way through the G League, grinded his way into being a starter on that team and being a key part on that team. And he didn't do it because of his offensive bag and dribbling cone drills. He did it because of heart, passion, hustle, identifying a role, and understanding that once you get the higher and higher you go, everybody can score. But what else are you willing to do to contribute to winning basketball? And that's a conversation that translates to a bunch of different sports, right? I'm just saying that as you see this influx of skill development and cone dribbling and who has what bag and who can shoot deep threes and all that fun stuff. All that stuff's great. I just like bigging up the example that there's other ways to make it to the big time as well. So pay attention to Lou Dort, Dwight Powell, Dylan Brooks. Those guys put in work too. Shea's going to be able to tell you that it wasn't just him that got Canada there. There's a bunch of different ways to get it done. And hey, that's just the first game of hopefully many to come over the next couple weeks. Again, Canada winning 86-79 over Giannis and Greece. I didn't really mention Giannis too much, but he had a massive game, 34 points for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Did all he could. I don't think Giannis forced a lot of shots. There are a couple bad shots he took, but that was more Canada's defense. I thought Giannis did a good job of trying to get the other guys involved. He just didn't really have a lot of other help from much of the other guys on his team. And if you're Giannis, what more? If you're Greece, what more do you really want from Giannis? I'm interested to see what happens in group play for Greece going forward, because if I'm the other teams, if I'm Spain and Australia, I just watched what Canada did, and I'm going to try to emulate that as good as possible. And they won't be able to, because obviously Canada has a higher level of athlete and defenders and NBA pedigree, so they're not going to be afraid of Giannis, right? But yeah, the blueprint is there. Let Giannis go off, let him score certain types of buckets, but try to neutralize the other guys on Greece. That's what I'm doing if I'm Australia and Spain and I just watch this game. From Canada's viewpoint, you hope for much of the same. You hope Dylan Brooks and Lou Dort are ready for the matchup in the next game against Australia, which is Tuesday morning at 7:30 a.m. So make sure you set your alarm clock, get your coffee ready. We'll be up and watching it. A reminder, we'll also be doing live hangouts, meaning there's a live stream up during the game. We'll be watching the game on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and subscribe to the Sheldon Alexander page. That's where you can join me and send in comments and questions during the game. We had a bunch of people in the chat commenting as the game went along. You get to see me lose my mind yelling at Shea, knocking down big time buckets and just getting fired up, because this is what we've been waiting for as a program and as a fan base, and getting to watch Canada basketball in the Olympics. This is just incredible. And to see the level of where this team is at, we're going to be ahead of the game, pushing out the content that this fan base and that this team deserves, right? We're not waiting until it gets to the medal rounds or whatever. We're here now. So thank you to people tuning in. Really appreciate that. A reminder to make sure that you subscribe to the podcast audio version on Apple and Spotify. Just search Canada Hoops Daily. That's how you get the post-game shows and Canada Hoops Daily video content you can find on YouTube by subscribing to Sheldon Alexander. And of course, you do that. That means you also get our live hangouts where tune in and watch the game with us and enjoy. Second screen experience. We're all listening and watching to the great broadcast provided by Dan Schulman and Megan McPeak. But second screen experience, we got you covered with a little different flavor as well, where you can enjoy, during commercial breaks. You can hear my takes on what's going on during the game. And, we can talk about the different numbers that are going on. I know people have been finding gambling way to get in on the gambling of this as well. Lots of different things we can do here on the feed. And I'll be here to break it all down as well. A reminder, you can find me on Twitter at Shell Alexander on Twitter and at Sheldon Alexander on Instagram, Canada Hoops Daily on Instagram, Can Hoops Daily on Twitter. That's how you support the movement that is the Canada Hoops Daily podcast, and support Canada basketball as well as they win 86-79 to open up Olympic play. 20 years in the making. Canada is back. Big time win. RJ Barrett, 23 points for Team Canada, leading the way. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander doing it all down the stretch. Big time buckets. What a time to be alive indeed. Jamal Murray, solid performance off the bench. Good to see him get extended minutes. Big time free throws made by Jamal Murray down the stretch as well. Can't emphasize that enough. Can't emphasize the role played by Lou Dort and Dillon Brooks as well. Great overall performance by Team Canada. And big shout out to the coaching staff for having this team prepared. Giannis looked like he had no idea what to do against Canada's defense multiple times throughout this game. And that just shows a team that was prepared for this. A team that was ready for this. Another thing to mention, right, before we go here, the fact that we know Giannis was a flag bearer for Greece. So, of course, he had to be at the opening ceremonies, right? Canada made the decision that their basketball team, the men's team, did not participate in the opening ceremonies. They wanted to make sure they were well rested for this game that they had today. They had bigger ceremonies that they want to get to, like, I don't know, the medal ceremony for this. And you saw, they said Giannis might have been somewhat under the weather. You saw him getting some treatment there. You hear the Team USA reports. Joel Embiid under the weather. Anthony Davis under the weather. I guess staying out in the rain for multiple hours, probably not a good idea for you to then try to put on peak athletic performances less than 24 hours later on. I'm just saying all that to big up the decisions being made right now by Team Canada basketball. I'll emphasize that because we know there's some other troubles going on elsewhere, which we'll keep that off to the side and just hope that Canada basketball can provide a positive story for the team sports as they make some moves here in trying to progress this program into medal status. Also, big shout out to the women's team. Saw they were in attendance as well. We will be doing live watch-alongs for that. The women play on Monday, if I'm not mistaken. I think I have that right. But we'll be here to break that down as well. Make sure you join us for the post-game pods and for the live hangouts. Really appreciate that. As I always say, I used to pray for times like this to rhyme like this. This is Canada Hoops Daily Podcast. As always, unpolished and unapologetic. Until next time, see ya.